Sometimes life's problems can be too much. When you need a helping hand or a friend to talk to, Serena is there whenever or wherever you need her. Follow the link in the description for your free trial.
Am I the asshole for leaving a fake positive pregnancy test in the bedroom to catch my husband's mom snooping? My MIL moved in with us a month ago. I began to notice my stuff in the bedroom being touched. Furniture rearranged, stuff moved, etc. I felt like I was going crazy because my husband is the only one who has access to the bedroom and he doesn't usually touch nor come near my things. I figured it must be his mom walking in and snooping on my personal things. I told my husband and he said his mom would never. I had a huge hunch but couldn't install a cam in the bedroom to catch her in act. So, I got me one of those fake positive pregnancy tests and threw it in the bedroom's trash can. Note the trash can was placed in the corner near the closet. Literally the next day after I got to work, I got tons of calls and texts from my in-laws, congratulating me for my pregnancy. My husband came over to my workplace and was all worked up about it, asking since when I was pregnant, and why I didn't tell him. I asked how he found out and he said his mom found the positive test in the trash can in the bedroom. I asked if his answer just confirmed that she's been snooping in the bedroom all along. He had a realization moment but demanded we stick to the bigger issue. I said there was no bigger issue because the positive test was fake and this whole thing was done to expose my MIL's snooping. He was not convinced. He had me take an actual test right in front of him and he was livid, asking how could I lie about such thing and break his mom's heart since I know very well that she longs for kids. I got a lot of shit because of this from him, his mom and family now calling me a liar and manipulator. Am I the asshole? Important info. Nothing gets takes or goes missing from the bedroom. Just to be clear. Not the asshole, but ordering a lock for the door and kicking MIL out seems easier. If you were preg, how dare she announce it? So many red flags, one of you needs to go and it shouldn't have to be you. Not the asshole. You told no lies. Even if you were pregnant she had no right to announce it to the world. Sounds like one of you girls should move out. I wonder which one your husband would prefer. Not the asshole. You didn't lie. You set a trap. You caught a rat. Am I the asshole for saying that I can't do any chores in December and following through? I, F30, run a small online business from home. November and December are my busiest time of the year when I make a lot of money that allows me to work less during the year. I've been doing this since I was 25, so I've got a decent idea of what I can and cannot do. And focusing on work only for 1-2 months is a sacrifice I'm willing to make for chill rest of the year. This year, I've moved in with my boyfriend, M35. Well, technically he moved in with me because I own the house, so it was a no-brainer for him to move in with me. We split chores half and half. He works full-time, 37.5 hours a week. When he moved in, I had a talk with him letting him know that I can't do any chores in November, December, and asked if he could pick up the slack because I'm physically unable to do any chores as I can be working anything between 12–18 hours a day. I take a full January off to decompress. He said he doubted I worked that much, but we will see. I asked again in September and October to make sure he was aware that I won't be doing anything. I meal prepped in advance, and I felt he kind of dismissed me. Mid-November, we had an argument about my chores not being done and I reminded him of what I told him. He said that he thought I wasn't being serious and told me there's no way he'd do 100% of chores because he's working too. I said fine, don't do my chores, they can wait until I have time. That's how it was when I lived alone, no problem, I don't make much mess anyway. He wasn't happy but dropped it. We haven't seen each other much because I've been working so much, but he's been more and more pissed off and blew up at me today regarding the chores. He said I had to have a better work-life balance and to grow up because the house was a mess. I told him if it was a mess it was his fault because I barely leave my office. He called me a lazy bitch. I told him Kay didn't have time for arguing and went back working. He stood in front of my locked office door shouting how he couldn't believe I was BMG serious about not doing chores and it was an asshole move to leave it all to him. He thinks I'm a major asshole for basically disappearing for 2 months and following through with not doing chores. Am I really the asshole for saying I won't do chores and following through? Sorry for any typos, I'm on mobile and my autocorrect hates me. Not the asshole. Someone who called me a lazy bitch in my house wouldn't be living in it much longer. He called you a lazy bitch? That kind of disrespect and rudeness in a relationship would not fly with me and he'd be out. Not the asshole. Wow. Your boyfriend is showing his true colors. Believe him. I know that right now you don't have time to rearrange your life, but once January comes around you should give yourself the gift of losing the deadbeat boyfriend. For what it's worth, I'm married and both me and my husband have gone through times where we had to pick up the slack for each other for whatever reason. And it's not always a work reason, there could be health issues, the birth of a child, travel and a billion other things that come up. Your boyfriend is showing you that he will throw a fit and call you names whenever he needs to support you. This is bad. Really bad. It should be a deal breaker. Am I the asshole for going on trip with my family that my wife isn't going on? Recently my parents surprised me, 26 male, and my siblings, 16 and 19, with a ski trip this December the day after Christmas. My parents offered to pay for my expenses and said that my wife, 24, was welcome to come, but she would need to pay her way. My wife and I are okay financially, but with the trip being so close to Christmas we wouldn't be able to afford to pay for her to go. Despite this I really wanted to go on the trip as it was always a dream of mine to go on a trip like this. My family grew up dirt poor until I was about 15 when my parents' business took off and now they extremely comfortable and can afford to pay for trips like this for us. They could certainly afford to pay for my wife to also go, but they have always been this way when it comes to paying for things for me versus my wife. My parents think it's only fair to pay for me when we go out to eat or go on trips because they are still paying for my siblings. I don't ask them to, but it is nice to save money so on every trip they will pay my way, room and board, excursions, meals, while my wife was expected to pay her way. This started before we were married. This has always bothered my wife especially after we got married and they still excluded her so in these past 2 years since we got married so I tried to limit the trips since they bother her so much, but this is a once-in-a-lifetime trip for me so I thought she would be supportive of me going, but she's very upset and hurt. She wants to go on the trip, but like I said we just can't afford it, which she understands. She told me she does want me to have this experience, but she is sad because she thinks my parents purposefully exclude her. Am I the asshole for choosing to go on the trip and leave her behind? I still have time to cancel on my parents, but I know they would be sad. They could certainly afford to pay for my wife to also go, but they have always been this way when it comes to paying for things for me versus my wife. So, you are well aware that your parents are intentionally excluding your wife, and apparently, this is definitely not the first time. And you don't understand why she's so hurt and upset about this, especially when it's during Christmas. Think about it, dude. Think real hard. You are the asshole. You really think your parents don't know what they are doing here? Save up and do a similar trip with your wife as a couple if it's that important to you. You are the asshole. You are the asshole. Either she's family to your parents or she isn't, and clearly she isn't. And you're a serious asshole to your wife by letting your family continuously exclude her. They should either be paying for both of you or you and your wife should be covering for the two of you. Am I the asshole for making a scene when my son refused to dance with me? This all started when my son Ben graduated high school. There was a formal dance. I was very excited for the mother-son dance. Every time I brought it up, Ben would say he wasn't going to dance. I didn't take him seriously. I thought he was just being shy. When we got to the formal, everything was beautiful. But when it came time for the formal dances, he was nowhere to be seen. I approached my older daughter, Alice, and my husband, who I could see were talking and laughing. I asked if they'd seen Ben, and they laughed and said he was going to go hide so he didn't have to dance. I was absolutely heartbroken. My son was literally hiding from me. I stood in the corner during the mother-son dance, watching all his friends dance with their moms. I couldn't take it, so I told my husband and daughter that I was walking home. When they got home, Ben walked right past me and went to his room to get ready for the after-party. My daughter hugged me, and went to get ready, because she was driving Ben to the party. After our children left, my husband and I had an argument about what happened. He said he was appalled at my behavior, and that I was acting like a child. I said that the least Ben could have done was dance with his mother. He said that today was supposed to be about him and his accomplishment, not me. But in my opinion, today should have also been about celebrating the people who helped him get to where he is now. Things got quite heated, and before going inside, my husband said that he wasn't going to force his son to do something he didn't want to do on his day. I was taken aback by this, so I just stayed on the porch trying not to cry. I thought my husband would support me. Later, my daughter returns home and sees me crying. She gives me a hug and gave me a chocolate bar to try to cheer me up. If no one else, my daughter would be on my side. She danced with me at her graduation. She danced with her father. She understood how important this day was for me. I asked if she was on my side. She said something along the lines of, "I know you're upset, but I don't know what you expected from him." It took a few days before we really spoke to each other again, and after a few weeks, everything went back to normal. Coming back to the present, my daughter recently got engaged. We were talking about it on a family FaceTime, and the topic of when Ben will get married came up. He said he was never going to get married, because he doesn't want to deal with another round of dance drama. When I asked him to clarify, he said that he was obviously referring to his graduation. I was appalled at this attack. He won't get married because of me? I won't lie, I am upset that he still does not want to dance with me, even at his own wedding. Now my husband is mad at me. My son refuses to answer my calls or texts. Am I the asshole for making a scene and starting an argument because my son never wants to dance with me? Edit. Okay. It appears as though the response is pretty unanimous, and I have a lot of thinking to do. You are the asshole. When your child said, "I don't want to dance," that should have been the end of the story. It sounds like you walk over his boundaries often, and that was one of the first times he spoke up to you about it. I was taken aback by this, so I just stayed on the porch trying not to cry. I thought my husband would support me. If no one else, my daughter would be on my side. I asked if she was on my side. I was appalled at this attack. You are the asshole, and this is not a healthy response to your kid setting a boundary that disappointed you. You're going to a very interesting mother-in-law. You forced your son to hide somewhere because he knew you would show no respect whatsoever for his boundaries. Years later, he cracks a joke about it, and you go into another huff? Of course, you are the asshole. Why do you even need to ask?